Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like the new Cardinal rotation, still needs a lot of help. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, Nate H.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, how you doing today? Have you received your issue of Japan GQ in the mail yet?
I do kind of want to order an issue and get that put that on the shelf over here. I got a little Cardinals memorabilia shelf over here. I think that would be a nice addition. Also, like, what is that? Like it's like a maroon velour blazer with the black lapels that he's rocking on the cover.
It's looking good.
Looks very sharp.
Yeah. What do you got on your memorabilia shelf? What's any interesting items there?
So I have this old Stan Musial. It's a vinyl. It's a record. It's Stan Musial teaching hitting. Cool. And it's it's a vinyl, so it's like 40 something minutes of Stan Musial just talking about the art of hitting. I have a Women in Baseball. It's kind of like a graphic novel. That's more just general baseball. I'm looking at it right now. I have some art that friends and family have given me. I'm looking at a Nolan Arenado bobblehead. I have some other Cardinals bobbleheads that I can't see from the angle right here. I also, maybe the most unique piece of baseball memorabilia I have, it has nothing to do with the Cardinals, but somebody saw this at a thrift store and they thought of me. It is, remember Kirby Puckett?
Yes.
It's when he was on the Twins. It is a rubber duck that has Kirby Puckett's face and it's wearing a Twins jersey, and it makes absolutely no sense, but I have a Kirby Puckett rubber duck.
You think someone saw, like, that's a stupid duck, that makes me think of Ben. Oh, it also is baseball related.
Kirby Puckett's cool.
Kirby Puckett is cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I think like when you're a people like us, if it's like a birthday or Christmas or general gift and they don't know what to get me, they default to baseball. So I have, I'm pointing at the room, but there's just baseball crap all around me.
That's how I am, but with pizza shit. People have gotten me stuff for Christmas and for birthdays for like quite a while now, because I've gotten into making my own pies at home from scratch. And so I've just become like, get them a pizza peel. Like
right. That. As very average aging mid-30s white men age, they just kind of their entire personality dwindles down to baseball, pizza. I've been told that World War II is like probably right behind me as far as my interest.
You gotta pick your favorite war.
Yeah, your whole personality just kind of gets reduced to that. And we're headed there. We're very exciting.
Yeah. I've never been a big like memorabilia guy. I'm not much of a collector, but what's funny is doing our stupid card shark game has had me, buying packs of baseball cards. And that was something that I was into as a kid. Actually more basketball cards than baseball cards as a kid. I've got my collection near me of over 300 Shaquille O'Neal basketball cards. That is, I like to joke, is my retirement plan. But getting these baseball cards has made me kind of start to get into like baseball cards a little bit more. I'm getting like a little binder and putting them in there. And even though I'm not getting anything good, I'm just getting these, random Topps packs. It has been kind of fun looking into it. And I've been thinking like, maybe I'll like go for like Cardinal rookie cards or something.
Yeah.
Since we pay so much attention to it, and we track these guys now from like draft day all the way up to when they make their big league debut. So I don't know. I've been thinking about it, but again, I'm not really a big collector.
Yeah, I think it's just fun, like little conversation pieces, and when I like that. I like
conversation
that
pieces for when I come over.
Yes.
because no one else is going to talk to you about this shit.
Yeah, that's probably true. I'm trying to think of who would even recognize Kirby Puckett's face on a rubber duck.
Mhm.
Um,
Kirby Duckett.
Maybe that was I'm
That's got to
having to
be it.
assume that there was some Twins giveaway.
Yeah.
Maybe he came
Yeah.
back for something, and God knows why they went with a rubber duck.
Uh-huh.
But he's killing it. That's I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, what I was trying to say is um I like that. That's like a first like baseball. A sicko is like a first paragraph fact about Ben Samorka, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I think that's a good thing. You know,
Yeah.
um, he lives in Denver. He skis. He's a nerd. Baseball, like that's I'm fine
Mhm.
being dwindled down to that as my little first paragraph or whatever you want to call it.
I'd hope
Cat
so.
cat dad.
We're approaching 100 episodes of our baseball focused podcast, so it's got to be
Yeah,
pretty high up there.
yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome if I'm done. I'm not interested.
But hey, good for Lars Newbar. Is Lars Newbar the biggest star the Cardinals have had? Like I don't know, since peak Albert Pujols. Like when I mean star, I don't mean like in the world of baseball. I mean
Yeah.
like you know, just like globally recognized
I
person.
I think it's always so hard to view this kind of stuff because one, I'm not Japanese,
Right.
which might be surprising for some of our
Hmm.
listeners. But also we're like we have such a Cardinals lens on everything. Like, of course, it's Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah.
Who that's a household name over here at the Samorka House.
Right.
So it's always hard to tell that thing. But I think that winning an award like this, which is like purely a social
Basically a
um,
popularity contest,
it's
right?
basically a popularity contest. It's basically like, yeah, what is the zeitgeist focused on right now? And for the little right fielder from the St. Louis Cardinals, who's 25 years old, to win that in Japan, to get the photo shoot. I mean, he's a legitimate celebrity in Japan. And I think
Hmm.
that his Japanese celebrity, his proximity to Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto, his personality. I think that like if you were to do a focus group on the Cardinals, I bet that he would have some of the highest name recognition. It would be
Yeah,
like Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Lars Nootbaar, probably in America,
probably.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably, at least in the United States, definitely still refined down to baseball fans only probably really know him. But adding in that Japanese fame, I think so. He's definitely one of the most famous Cardinals of the last like 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, he basically just was one of the winners of a Japanese culture popularity contest, which is pretty interesting.
And I think interesting to see how the Cardinals decide to wield that. Curious to see how Lars decides to wield that. Like, um,
Well, Mazalek called it out in that press conference last week, and we kind of touched on it. We're going to talk about it a little bit more today, but Mazalek said that the business department of the St. Louis Cardinals is looking into the impact that, and he said someone like Lars Nootbaar has on the business and what bringing in players that have his sort of not just personality, but like brand name appeal,
yeah.
especially I think specifically in other markets, is what they're looking at from a business perspective. And yeah, it's
I
really
mean,
interesting.
they should be,
Yeah.
because you look at Japan is so baseball crazy. If you remember during the WBC, the Japanese infrastructure was struggling to keep up with everybody flushing their toilets in between innings. Like these people are nuts about
Yeah.
baseball, and tapping into that from a player side, tapping into that from a media side. I think it's super exciting. It's super
Hmm.
exciting from where we're standing, obviously for Nootbaar, and of course the Cardinals. Like, I mean, I kind of want to make fun of them if they're just now realizing that that's a big media market and that like it matters and moves the dial. Then like, what the hell are you guys thinking? But I think
Yeah.
it's
I
great that
don't
they're
think they
talking about it.
are. Yeah. I don't think it's new. I mean, the Cardinals, compared to a lot of the league, they've been pretty good about being involved in these markets in the Korean
Yeah,
Baseball League as well. So I don't think it's brand new, but what I think my read on what Mazalek was saying is basically the business is looking at, would it be worthwhile for us to do a budget breaking style contract for a player that we wouldn't normally do because the value is outsized what you would normally expect from just
Yeah.
signing like a United States star at that same price, where you kind of already know what it's going to do for your market value and whatnot.
Right.
But, we're circling it, but I think Derek
Yamamoto,
Gould,
Yamamoto,
yeah,
Yamamoto.
basically Derek Gould had said as well that they're talking about Yamamoto,
Yeah.
and what someone like him would do. And, if you think like, sure, we have to pay him 30 a year, but he'll bring in an additional 10 in like revenue from whatever it might be, ticket sales, contract, deals, merchandising, all that stuff. Maybe it would be worth it. But I don't know. It kind of feels like that ship has sailed. So let's get into
Well, I have a dissenting opinion, but we'll get
yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
the only thing I want to button on that is let's say if the Cardinals stand pat, they don't sign any more Japanese players. It is the way it is. Be very curious to see, like, is there a scrum, a Japanese contingent that's following around Newt throughout this year? Like, has he tipped the scales where he's that big of a deal? But we'll find out. Maybe in spring training.
Yeah, I suspect there'll be at least some degree of it. That's
Yeah.
not uncommon for other Japanese stars in the United States Baseball League to to have media. Maybe not every day, every game, but I would imagine bigger series and whatnot. There'll be some Japanese journalists and whatnot following Nootbaar around.
Yeah, kind of fun.
Also, I bet if his name was like Jeff Smith, he's this is reduced by like 40%. There's something about his name being Lars Nootbaar on top of all of this that just puts it into that next level of
Fully
celebrity.
Well, the fact that his name is Lars Nootbaar, full stop. The fact that
Yeah.
his name is Lars Nootbaar and he is half Japanese and went and played for Team Japan, Team Samurai, with the most like Norwegian, Netherlands sounding name of all
Dutch.
time.
Yeah.
It's
Lars Nootbaar, Japanese hero. It's
yes,
incredible.
It is. I mean, the fact that he's even a successful baseball player with that name is all I need. But and hey, if I'll just throw we'll stop it. But Roki Sasaki, he's also out there looming. Maybe they're gathering all their horses for next year when he becomes available. But
gathering
we'll
our horses. Classic saying.
Did people not say that? What do you say there?
I don't
Circling
know.
the wagons? Is that better?
Sure, yeah. But that's not really relevant either. But I like gathering their horses. We're moving forward. The Cardinals are gathering their horses.
Yeah, get your horses together.
Yeah, we got to get our horses together for Suzuki.
Shout out Mr. Ed.
Yeah. Wow. Nice ref, too. Shout out Mr. Ed. Yes.
Crushed it.
Yeah. What are there any other famous horses?
Seabiscuit. People like him. I think he's dead.
The horse
who'd the Lone Ranger ride? Was that
that's another very relevant. I'm trying to think what did Gandalf ride? Gray Strider or shit. There's no way for us to know
you're
this.
saying that's a more relevant reference than the Lone Ranger?
Yeah. At
when
least
did
it was
those
made in
books
the
come
last
out?
25 years.
Oh, well, the movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, there's books from those movies?
Gandalf's horse name is Shadowfax.
Shadowfax.
That's a pretty badass name.
Yeah. And Viggo Mortensen, he like famously bought his horse from the filming of that movie.
I thought you were going to tell the story about him breaking his toe, and I was going to tell you to shut the hell up. I don't care.
Also, the namesake of one of my favorite a D&D character in our campaign, Vorgo Meatenson. Great name. Just taking the opportunity I get to say Vorgo Meatenson.
That's good. I like that.
If you can think of a more famous horse, tweet us at talk about more birds. Hashtag.
Holy
of
shit.
course, it's a horse. All right.
Of course, it's a horse. That's good.
All right,
Horse
let's
the
get
band.
back. Yeah.
Band of horses.
Band of horses, famous
Wow.
horse. Bring back famous horses. You know what I'm saying?
This election cycle, I want you to be focused on one thing.
You know, our mutual grandpa used to always say, a movie's not good unless it has a horse in it.
It's funny you bring that up. I was just telling Mary about how he would qualify his work being done to an adequate level if it looked good from the back of a galloping horse.
I say it all the time.
Yeah.
I did
Well,
a kind of shitty job on a wall patch the other day, and I said, couldn't see it from a galloping horse.
live our lives by that.
You also would say close enough for government work, which is another good one.
That is good.
All right, let's talk about the big news. We're like 20 minutes into the episode.
Yeah, we have real news, and you're talking about horses and Gandalf and geez.
The people wanted to hear that. All right, so I mean, big, arguably the biggest, maybe not by dollar amount, which is kind of hilarious, but one of the biggest signings the Cardinals have ever made in free agency. Sonny Gray is now a member of the St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow.
3-year, $75 million guaranteed. We've been learning a lot of contract details over the last day or two. I definitely want to dig into that. But before we get into like the specifics and the nitty gritty of the contract and what that means and you know where he sort of fits into the budget and all that, just want to talk about like Sonny Gray, the pitcher.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy that like I think from day one everyone has been saying this is the most obvious Cardinal target. You know, where he fits in and who else they would sign is really the big question. But like Sonny Gray has been identified by virtually everyone that he makes the most sense for the Cardinals. And here we are. Lo and behold, it happened. The
I mean,
Cardinals
I
now
think
have Sonny Gray.
we were when the offseason first started, we were kind of like, let's just assume Sonny Gray is going to be on the
Yeah.
Cardinals at some point.
Yeah.
It just makes too much sense. Of course, there are other teams that are interested in making it work with him, but it just made so much sense. And then we learn that he wants to be here, which makes sense. He's a Tennessee kid. He grew up in Tennessee, went to school in Tennessee. Obviously in the region. So yeah, I mean, a perfect fit makes all the sense.
Yeah. And I mean, on the field, it's fantastic, right? I mean, you know,
Absolutely.
we've been kind of you know, shit talking some of the other signings that have happened, but like Sonny Gray is a legitimate you know, front of rotation. Where he fits exactly, that's up for debate, but he is a front of rotation guy. He was the second in line for the AL Cy Young last year, and all the underlying numbers back it up. He's just been one of the most effective pitchers in baseball for quite a while now.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if we look back on this, maybe even this year or in a couple of years, and we say that this was one of the better signings by any team during this offseason. I think when you look at how short they were able to get the term, how they were able to tack on that club option with a $5 million buyout, how it aligns with the Cardinals window as far as Goldie and Arenado. I think people are going to look at this as a really, really great deal for the Cardinals.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into the contract a little bit. So, you know, when people were discussing Sonny Gray as a target, I think the bigger concern was not would he be an effective pitcher for the Cardinals, but how long would they end up having him? Is this going to be a you know Mike Leake 5-year deal thing where you're like, okay, maybe we get a couple good years, but the back end of it is rough or whatnot? But surprisingly, like there was a lot of teams that need pitching, so I kind of was expecting every good pitcher in this market to get into a bidding war. And typically the way that teams end up winning those bidding wars is being the one who's willing to go the longest, right? And so I was really expecting if the Cardinals got Sonny Gray, he's an older guy, that they'd have to be the team who's willing to give that fourth or maybe even fifth year.
Right.
And instead, 3 years guaranteed. Now there is a club option. It's actually a mutual option with some details in there that depend on like who does what and whatnot. But essentially, there's a 4th year mutual option as well. But 3 years,
Yeah.
I think, is perfect.
Yeah, I think the stars aligned for the Cardinals here a little bit. Not only did he want to come here, but Sonny Gray is a bit of an older pitcher. He's made money. He's made over $60 million in his career. So I don't think he really felt the need. It wasn't his first time,
Yeah.
signing that check, grabbing that bag. I think that helped the Cardinals out quite a bit. I also think the looming specters that are the two big Japanese pitchers, where all the teams that are looking at the Japanese pitchers probably are also interested in Sonny Gray,
Hmm.
and the Cardinals kind of jumping the market in that way, letting those two guys hang out there, probably helped this all kind of coalesce into working out for the team and the player.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the Cardinals have said they wanted to go fast in this offseason. And
they,
we've kind of
they
we've
sure
kind of
did.
yeah, we've kind of joked about it because it's like, oh, great, good thing they rushed to sign Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. Like, whoo, had to make sure that that got locked up. But
Yeah,
those guys aside, like this is good. I think it's and when you look outside, like generally speaking, other than people who are just are mad at the Cardinals and just want to be mad at the Cardinals, this is being considered a very good deal across the market. Most people are calling it market value, a fair deal, which again, considering the price of pitching and the need for pitching across the league, is kind of expecting almost every deal except for like an Aaron Nola type thing for
yeah,
everyone to say like it's an overpay, but they had to do it. So the fact that it's like a good deal for the Cardinals also is nice because while we don't care about the amount of money that gets spent, it's not our money. We wish they would spend more. We do try to look at it in the frame of what we understand their willingness to spend. So when they get a
right.
better deal, we're happy about it because we know that means more flexibility in other areas.
I I I'm of the opinion that if you look at this deal on its own and just Sonny Gray coming to the Cardinals, irrelevant of the other moves the Cardinals have made, like I think if you don't like this deal, you're wrong. Like
Yeah.
full stop. It's good for both team and player. Makes so much sense. The dollars are right. Yeah, it's just a good deal. Full.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come at me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, what more do we like? I know we want more, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but like, they have to go out and acquire good pitching.
Yeah.
Lynn and Gibson are a thing that they it's almost a need, but like we wanted the Cardinals to go out and get good pitching.
Yeah.
And this is one of the best guys available on the market, and we got him at a good deal. So I'm excited about it. Now, I still have my feelings about the broader scope
Yeah.
of the season, which we're going to talk about, and like what this means for them and what the team will look like if this is it. But like both in a vacuum and outside of that vacuum, like I'm super excited about this signing, and it's arguably one of the highest talent free agents that the Cardinals have gone out and got in a competitive free agent
Yeah.
market that we've seen in like a long time, maybe since Matt Holliday, right?
Fully agree. And I think to dive into Sonny Gray, the pitcher, a little bit more, I think is also really exciting because you see the five WAR, you see the second place Cy Young finish, but I think what you also see, like since Sonny Gray came into the league, he's been a elite spinner of the baseball,
Yeah.
and that's true on all of his pitches. He's got great fast on his four seam. His breaking balls have great spin on it. He is upper echelon, and we all know like that is other than just strictly striking people out, that is what every team is looking for. And he can utilize that really well. Last year, he changed up his pitch mix. And this is another thing that I think Cardinals fans should be really excited about is the fact that he is willing to kind of like innovate and use technology and,
Hmm.
look at previous results, use TrackMan data, use high speed cameras, and make changes using his just natural ability to spin the ball. The fact that he incorporated a sweeper, which was, you look at however you want to look at it, is one of the most dominant pitches in baseball last year. And this was the first
Hmm.
year he really brought it out and showed everybody what it does. So we'll see how that evolves. His curveball, he's been throwing that since his days with the A's, and that's been dominant. And then he's kind of added a little cutter and a changeup to make all of those pitches even work better together. And I say all that to say that like this guy, well, this was his plan coming into this year. He's going to make adjustments. And if they're not working, he'll make adjustments to those adjustments and find something until it works. And I think that that's that means that he is more likely to repeat his success. I also think it means that he's more likely to age well because he will do with whatever it takes. He will adjust. He is not um, going to take the Dakota Hudson route and just try the
Yeah.
same thing over and over again. He's going to manipulate and change and grow and evolve. And I think that's something that I would be willing to make a large bet on, like the Cardinals just did.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Looking at last year, definitely, there's a chance that last year was a career year from results standpoint. Coming in at 5.3 F4. He was a little lucky between his ERA and XFIP. His XFIP was in the mid threes, but even that, assuming Busch Stadium plays like it usually has, and we see some progress in the Cardinal defense,
I
which
think we will. I think
I
we
think we
will.
will as well.
Yes.
I think we can expect, he's the type of guy that, it's not uncommon for him to outperform his underlying metrics as well. So, we may not get 5+ wars runner up in Cy Young again. And that's fine. But I think, barring any injury, like the Cardinals have their new best pitcher, and it's kind of not even close right now.
It's really not. Damn.
Yeah. Which I think is a good segue into the next topic. How does Sonny Gray fit into the broader rotation, and how are we
Yeah.
feeling about the rotation now? Because I think there's still a lot of things floating out there, and I still think we both believe that the Cardinals are going to get at least one more starting pitcher. But
Yeah.
as it stands, how are you feeling about the new look rotation?
Yeah. I think the innings are there, which are
Yeah.
huge, right?
Yeah.
That is the number one thing. Like I get the criticisms. I get
Mhm.
that this rotation is old. I get all that. But there is a high probability that you are going to be getting 150 innings from over 150 innings from four guys that are on the starting rotation right now, which, even though that's a low bar, look at last year, we would
Yeah.
have killed. We would have made a blood sacrifice in center field to get there with Wayno and Jack and Dak and everybody. So that in its own right is a really big deal. I think if you are unhappy with the moves, that's totally fine. The biggest problem with the current rotation is it makes I think it makes sense to get a Lance Lynn or a Kyle Gibson. And if you want to play on that bottom part of the market, why not get somebody who has a little bit of upside, like a
Yeah.
Giolito? Now, Lucas Giolito could also explode and supernova at the halfway point and give up 50 home runs, but there's upside play with Lucas Giolito. There's upside play with Luis Severino,
Yeah.
Hyunjin Ryu. So I think that would be my biggest criticism is that they could have done that. But I said this last week. If your 4 and 5 are Gibson and Lynn, I think we're in a really good spot. I think Miles is going to do the drive line baseball, the work on his spin. I think he's going to come back. I don't think he's going to change the game and compete for a Cy Young, but I think Miles is going to come back an effective pitcher. By the way, he put up over 3 F4 last year. It's not like he
Yeah.
was terrible. He just wasn't great. My concern, Nathan, is that we have Steven Matz penciled in as the fifth starter. And I think we all know Steven Matz well enough at this point. If we get 20 starts from Steven Matz, that will feel like a small miracle from where I'm
Mhm.
sitting. So
Right.
that
And then it
means
just compounds from there, right? Steven
so
Matz goes down. Zach Thompson?
So I kind on the outline here, I put these guys' names in a like descending order of who I think is more likely to get those starts that either Matt's or one of the 30+ year old pitchers end up inevitably missing because there's no way this whole rotation is going to be healthy all year. It's just not going to
Right.
happen. But I put in
Right.
descending order: Zach Thompson, Matthew Liberatore, Simra Bursay, Adam Kloffenstein, Gordon Graceffo, and Michael McGreevy. That's my feeling on it. I think that they're going to let Takoa and Tink cook as long as they can in the minors before
Yeah.
pulling them up because all the reasons and don't mess with that. Like they're going to be good. It just needs to
Right.
matriculate. But yeah, how good are you feeling about like I I feel okay with Zach Thompson starting. Feel less okay with Matthew Liberatore starting unless something changes, and then it kind of descends there. Like it starts getting a little scary after that, and then I start to convince myself, well, maybe it is. Maybe you still do bring in a Lucas Giolito,
Hmm.
um, or somebody better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because we're not that far away from going right back into where we were last year, right? You only need one or two injuries from this aging rotation to be essentially back where we were. So I think there's still a clear need for additional arms there, and where that comes from. I, well, let's talk about it. I don't. I personally am feeling moved on from my hope of Yamamoto being a St. Louis Cardinal. I would love for you to convince me otherwise,
Yeah,
but I think the even though the Gray contract is backdated, which we didn't not backdated, backloaded,
backloaded. Yeah.
yeah, um, which we didn't really touch on. I truly don't see it happening at this point. So I think another starter's coming from trade. But I know you want to talk about why you think Yamamoto is still on the table.
Well, I think he's absolutely still on the table. I think it's for the star factor, the Japanese market factor. I think that he's a bit of a unicorn, being the 25-year-old back
Yeah,
to back best pitcher in MPB. And I think that the Cardinals never want to pay full price for players, right? And
right.
that's really hard to do right now. Maybe the best way to do that right now is to buy a player coming from the KBO or Nippon Professional Baseball League. Um, and
Which
even
they've
though,
done. Which they've
which
done.
they've
Right.
done, and
Yeah.
even though Yamamoto is going to be expensive and he's going to sign long term, he is not going to sign for as much as he would have if he had had his first 5-6 years in Major League Baseball. He
Yeah.
probably would have been breaking 300 Garrett Cole type money.
Right.
And maybe even more because he's a free agent at 25. It probably would have eclipsed Garrett Cole. So you're still able to get Yoshi Yamamoto at a discount when you look at the market in mass, right? It's
Right.
cheaper. Those dollars go further than they do from MLB players. The other thing is with the structuring of the Sonny Gray deal. I don't think like people are reading into this a ton. I think more what to read into that is that a Yamamoto deal could look very similar. You could guarantee him, let's say it's 8 years, 250 million, which is somewhere around what I think he's going to probably land at.
Hmm.
We'll see, exactly. But you could give him, maybe you give him a high AAV the first year, it goes discount. You give him a high AAV the next year, you give him an opt out at the age of 30, 29 or 30, and then guarantee a lot of money on the back end and let him kind of choose his own adventure. You can get really, really creative with how you want to spread this money out, which is why I think the Cardinals should still be in play because they don't have a lot of guaranteed money. They have young players. This guy, like I said, he's kind of a unicorn. And you can get creative, whether it be the power of an opt out, the power of Lars Nootbaar, the power of being flexible with the way that money is getting doled out. I mean, for instance, this club option for Sonny Gray, that $5 million buyout, if they do the buyout, that $5 million is being paid out starting in 2027, $1 million every year. Like you can get
Yeah.
really creative with
Yeah.
how you spend this money, and Yamamoto still gets to say, "I had the biggest deal ever coming from
Right. Right.
NPB." So that's why I think the Cardinals and Cardinals fans should still consider ourselves in it until he signs, because Mo and Co will get creative. We all know that, especially if you can spread that money out and you're starting to talk about paying people in 2027, 8, 9,
Hmm.
like that money's we inherently less valuable than the money we're
Yeah.
spending today. So,
Well, with inflation,
oh my goodness,
don't even get me started over here.
what the
So
hell?
I don't know.
Did I convince you?
You convinced me why they should still be involved, and I don't disagree at all. My only this the pessimistic side of me
Yeah.
is that I don't think we've ever seen that degree of creativity and willingness from the St. Louis Cardinals. And so
Agreed.
it would be completely outside of their character, of which we have now, what, 15 years, 15 to 20 years of examples of how like the current version of running the Cardinals. They've never done that before. And even last year when they said we might have to get a little uncomfortable, what that became was signing Wilson Contreras to a 17.5 million. Like we've just never seen that before. And so
Yeah.
I want that, of course. And yeah, like, you know, they by structuring Sonny Gray's contract the way it is, they're buying themselves like an unexpected, you know, they basically have like 20, 25 maybe left for this year in what we were anticipating, which is a big hole. Like that's another star player can fit in
Yeah.
that spot, right? And yeah, like Goldie's out after this year, assuming no new contract, and there's just a lot of money coming off the books, and you know, you could see how
And
it would work.
where's the star power after Goldie leaves?
Yeah, Arenado, and hopefully
Yeah.
Jordan Walker, and hopefully
Hopefully.
Mason Wynn, but
Yeah.
they'll be on cheap contracts still at that point.
Exactly. So I
Yeah,
think, and that's really what, do I think it's likely? No. Can the
right.
Cardinals do it? Absolutely, they can do it. There is no mathematical or money reason why the Cardinals should be out on Yamamoto. It's just, can they step up? Can they,
Yeah.
can they, if the deciding factor is giving him that opt out at the fourth or fifth year, I think the Cardinals should absolutely do it.
Hell yeah.
Um,
I mean, do an opt out at 3, like whatever you got to do. Like they're they are with, especially with this Sonny Gray signing. You know, they're projecting an attempt and an intent to compete in these upcoming 3 years, which makes a lot of sense. They try to compete every year, but like you're not doing this if you're not really trying to win in the next few years.
right.
And so yeah, like I liked the backdating, damn it, what backlogging? Why can't
Backload.
backloading? Why can't I
Jesus.
remember this? Oh my god. The backloading of the contract, the thing that I really liked about it, even though it is kind of standard Cardinal play, they love doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Is that like it does signal to me they want to win this year, because
Yeah.
that is really prioritizing 2024, you know, by allowing you to have more payroll flexibility for this upcoming year. I really like that. I like that symboling and whatnot. I'm just be surprised if it all gets dumped into something like this, or we know that they also they said it in a recent interview that like they like to go into the year a little below budget so that they have some flexibility to add
Right.
on during the trade deadline or whatever you may need. Like, you know, this reserving some budget because of the backloading. You know, it could be a symbol of like, hey, we're getting ready to spin big. It could also just be exactly what the Cardinals always do, and
Yeah.
they're going to end up with around the same budget, and they just wanted that space
Yeah.
so DeWitt can get another California mansion or whatever.
And everything that I said about Yamamoto could also be true about Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think that door is closed.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Stroman, who I know you and I aren't super high on, that door could still potentially be open. I've heard Mike Clevenger's name. Now, I'm
Yeah.
not arguing for many of those names. I do think Jordan Montgomery reunion would be great. And I wonder if the Cardinals could have any type of discount because maybe he enjoyed his time
Yeah.
here a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he'd love to be like a 1-2 of Jordan Montgomery and Sonny Gray. Feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Feel better about
Yeah.
Yamamoto.
Of course.
But I think, I think that I hope that the front office is keeping their minds open. And you would assume that players are open to the flexibility of manipulating those contracts so that the team that they're playing on can remain competitive.
Yeah. Which we've seen a lot of players do over
Totally.
different. Yeah.
And
Sorry,
we
go
look
on.
up I was just going to say, we look up in a couple of years and we got a rotation that's, Sonny Gray. It's 2026. We got a rotation of Sonny Gray, Jordan Montgomery, or Yamamoto, Tink Hintz, Takoa Roby, and, Lance Lynn may be still there and taking the fifth spot or something like that. But,
Yeah.
you could see how you spend money now. You believe in your minor league guys coming up, saving you money later. It
Yeah.
makes some sense to me.
Yeah, I hope that that's the case. We just also there's the big X factor of sure this is all well and good, but then maybe the Dodgers or whoever go out and say like, yeah, sure the Cardinals will give you a really crafty, interesting 225 million, but we'll give you 280.
Do you
Come play for us. You know,
do you
it's like,
think
well, fuck.
do you think the Dodgers would sign Otani and Yamamoto?
No, I think whoever gets Otani probably that's like their big spend for the
Yeah.
offseason. At least I
You would
certainly hope
think.
so. You would
Yeah.
think so.
Right.
Because the big rumor that I love is that the Dodgers are trying to sign Otani and trade for Mike Trout, which I actually well obviously as a Cardinal fan, I hate that. Like
I think
there are a few things I hate more than that. The only one I hate more than that is the Cubs doing that.
Yeah.
But like as a baseball fan and as someone who wants Otani and Trout to have just a modicum of success in their career outside of individual performance, I like that, you
Yeah.
know. But the idea of like a Betts, Freeman, Otani, Trout, you know
I
what? Like I hate it.
I don't know if that would be good for the game. I would
Yeah,
like to just see what that offense would do. Honestly, I think if you have the Dodgers lineup starting with Betts, Otani, and Freeman in some type of order, that might alone be one of the best offenses we've ever seen.
yeah.
Adding Trout into that it would be fun to watch, but I don't know if that's good for baseball. That's like such a consolidation of talent on one. I don't know, but
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Padres just tried to do it, and it is completely fallen. You know, they keep
yeah, but the
failing, but
Dodgers are smarter than the
yeah,
Padres.
that's
They
true.
would figure out a way to
Yeah,
score 1,000 runs that year.
yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. So, the last bit, you know, I think to me the more likely thing, I am still anticipating a big trade from the St. Louis Cardinals for another pitcher. I think
Yeah,
what I would love to see, and I'd be pretty content with this, would be a trade for one of the better names that's available.
yeah,
I'm kind of like I have my preferences, you know, but like honestly, I'd be happy with any of the guys that have been named, whether
yeah,
it's one of the Seattle guys, whether it's Dylan Cease. My personal preference has been Tyler Glasnow,
yeah,
but like I understand the concerns around him, Edward Cabrera from the or Jesus Luzardo from the Like, there's a ton of guys out there that seem available. I'm kind of fine with anyone because your point earlier when you were saying like the big problem with the rotation right now is no upside. Like we're
yeah,
really banking on them doing exactly what they've done for years on years on years, which is a relatively safe bet. But like, you know, we want more. We want the Cardinals to not just like win the NL Central with 89 wins. We actually want them to be a really good team and compete with the big players in the NL and the AL. And so you need those upsides, those guys that pop and suddenly come out of nowhere and, make your team elite. So like almost all those guys that I named, like you could see that version. So I'd be pretty happy with any of them. I hope that happens. That we have reporting from Derek Gould and other trusted sources that they are talking about trade targets. What it actually looks like, we'll see.
yeah,
So I want that, and I think one more, like like maybe I guess a step down from Lynn and Gibson, maybe from what the price might end up being. But whether it's like a Lugo or like a Ryu, like you said, like all like I think one more, and the contract might have to be interesting because they might not actually come in as a starter, but
yeah,
just like one more guy that we know can be a fit that mold of Lynn and Gibson.
yeah,
We do
yeah. I
that,
think
we do a trade, and I'm feeling really good about this team.
yeah. If we're talking about like that level, that like kind of take a bet on, I would very much um uh point the Cardinals towards like Frankie Montaz,
Yeah.
Spencer Turnbull, like Tyler Maley, guys that have that fifth gear that they can lock into. It's either high velo fastballs, solid breaking balls, but just have been inconsistent and taking a fly. Like I would really love talking about an upside play
Hmm.
of maybe Frankie Montes finds his 97-mile-an-hour sinker and starts pushing,
Yeah.
and he boots his way into the fifth starter spot for the Cardinals. Like something like that is how I would spin what you're talking about. And I bet you could get Frankie Montas for $6 million or something like that. There's no way he hasn't
Yeah.
pitched in basically 2 years. There's no way he's going to
Right.
be commanding that much.
Yeah, and maybe he would be open to a minor league deal, right? Like,
Yeah.
probably not. But we'll see. That's where the
Well,
market, we don't really know.
you would think a team that doesn't have a lot of pitching depth in the rotation would be attractive for guys who are trying to bounce back, like those two
Yeah,
names I just threw out there. Like,
yeah,
oh, you know what? I could sign with the Dodgers. Maybe I'll crack the starting five. Or these Cardinals are relying on a bunch of 30-year-olds,
yeah.
35-year-olds. Let's
Certainly I can do better than Lance Lynn. He led the league in home runs last year.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Yeah,
To what degree players and agents think about that, I have no idea, but
yeah,
I bet it's part of the calculus.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So, to wrap this section up, like, ultimately, like, the Sonny Gray signing is awesome. I'm a huge fan. Where it fits in is still a big open question, but it is a positive of the Cardinals moving fast. There's been no shortage of news this offseason, and we're just about to get into the real winter meeting. So I think we might see some interesting things start to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And, well, we'll see. Winter meetings start on Sunday.
as long as all these old men don't get norovirus again. And
Oh, God.
all right. Well, we've got a little exercise we want to do at the Hall of Fame, and we're going to talk about some of the other news from around the league. But before we do, as always, we want to remind our listeners that this show is supported on Patreon by listeners just like you. If you've enjoyed the show and you might and want to show your appreciation for the time and effort that Ben and I put to bring the show to you every single week, all off season and all season, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Patrons of any level get access to our private Discord server. It's the Bird Score. Tweet. We're having a great time in there. It's a great place to go and talk to other Cardinal fans, listeners of the show, and get away from the noise of all the chaos that is all of the different social media platforms. And right now, that is increasingly difficult to navigate. We also have some shirts now, and subscribers at any of the levels above the base level get a free shirt right now, which is a great deal. They're really high quality shirts. We like to think they're kind of funny and something that you'll actually want to wear, and it's not just like our dumb faces on it or something like that. So check that out, patreon.com/talking about birds. And if you want to support the show in another way, you can leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really does help us show up in search results and things like that. And then, of course, tell your friends and family. You're spending a lot of time maybe right now with families as we head into the holiday season. So, tell them about your favorite bird podcast. Ben, if they want to find us online otherwise, where can people follow us?
Yeah, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. We are on Instagram at Talking About Birds. We're on Spotify. I know everybody's talking about Spotify Rap today and this week. Come follow us on Spotify if you prefer to listen to podcasts there. We got a TikTok. You can check us out there. You can email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And you can find all of that information at talkingaboutbirds.com. And yeah, I'll just say, I want to, it's a holiday season. I'm feeling really happy about our little bird scored listeners, and shout out to everyone there. I think it's been really fun, especially with all the Cardinals news that's been coming down. But we're talking Christmas lights. We're talking Cardinals. We're talking all kinds of stuff in there. So it's been really fun. Shout out to the bird squirters.
Yes, absolutely. And Ben, I got something new for you. I did not tell you that I was doing this. I wanted
You
to
son of a bitch.
to break it on the show. So we'll see how much this gets used. But we have a voicemail now. If you want to call,
I did not know this.
Ask us a question, leave a comment, leave us a bird fact, whatever it might be. If you want to tell us something, call, and I mean anything. Call us at 848 48 birds. That's right. That number is 848 48 birds. And it'll ring for a minute, and then it'll go to a voicemail. Leave it, and we'd love to hear it. Maybe we'll play some of them on the show. So that's a new way for you to reach out to us.
So I'm learning about this in real time. I'm very excited about this. What I would like this to be used as is you're sitting around, maybe you're having a couple of adult beverages with your friends,
Uh-huh.
and you're arguing about baseball or have a stupid baseball thought. In that moment, while you were having your libations, give us a call, and
Yeah.
I would very much look forward to hearing those. I think this is great. I might
Yeah.
call. That sounds
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. So again, 848 birds. All right.
Dumbass. This will be fun.
Okay, so Hall of Fame voting is live, and
Yes.
we thought it might be fun to run down who we would vote for in this round.
Yeah.
And I think we actually have some differing opinions here, Ben. So
Wowie wee wow.
yeah, you and I are often aligned in a lot of things around baseball. That's part of why we do this show. But there's a couple key differences here that I'm interested to talk through.
Oh yeah. How do you know what I know? What I think I know?
Well, we did discuss our votes in a separate baseball Slack that you and I are in. So I have a
If you've ever
general.
wondered how much of baseball sickos Nate and I are, that was just a little peek behind the curtain.
I have a general idea of who you voted for. Now you might have
Okay.
made some changes now that we're doing this as as more of an official exercise.
Okay. All right.
And I will say again, like, this would be a great thing for. We'd love to hear from our listeners too. If you have an opinion, if you agree or disagree with us, let us know. This is an interesting ballot. So Ben, why don't you run down who you're voting for, and let's talk
Yeah.
through that a little bit.
Yeah. You just want me to list them off, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, or we can go
Okay.
one by one, whatever you think makes
Yeah.
makes
Yeah. And
most
I'm
sense.
just going to go in the order that they are on the ballot. So that is my, if you're looking at the ballot while you're listening to this, you can kind of follow along. But, anyways, Carlos Beltran, former Cardinal legend, absolutely getting my vote. I don't care about the controversies and stuff like that. That didn't affect him being like the best switch hitting center fielder
Hmm.
of my adolescence. Like, he is incredible. Adrian Beltre, I put him as a first ballot, should be
Yes.
unanimous. Um, he might even be inner circle for me. He is, I think, one of the third base is
Hmm.
underrepresented in the Hall of Fame, and he was basically great except for a couple of years in Seattle for 2 decades.
Yeah.
And him refining himself in Boston and then going to Texas and basically becoming a franchise legend there. I love everything about it.
Yeah, I think of
Um,
everyone on this list, if I can, like, he's the most, like, I think he's gonna get, you know, he's first ballot. I think he's the most obvious person on this list. I don't think
Slam
it's really a
dunk.
question of whether Beltre's gonna get in the Hall of Fame.
And I know that you being unanimous doesn't really matter that much. Derek Jeter wasn't unanimous. But I think voters should get their heads out of their asses and make Beltre unanimous.
Well, that's a whole
Especially,
other discussion.
yeah,
That
yeah,
stuff drives me crazy, and I don't
yeah,
want to blow up our exercise right now with that, but holy shit! Like,
yeah.
all right. Anyway, go on.
Then I'm going down to Todd Helton. Todd Helton,
Hmm.
100% getting my vote. Not only am I a part-time Rockies fan, but look at the numbers. I don't care about the Coors Field effect. This dude was absolutely balling out of control, even with park factors included. So shout out him. Then I'm going to go to Andrew Jones, who I think is the best center fielder I've ever seen. By the way, he was able to hit 50 home runs. I mean, he accrued like 60 something WAR from his age 20 to 30, like just absolutely out of control. I wish he would have stuck around and just been a hitter a little longer, but age and
Hmm.
everything like that, it's hard. I am then going to go to Manny Ramirez. Come at me. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. A Rod also should be in the Hall of Fame. And then let's see, Chase Utley, I will also vote for, and Billy Wagner to round out my ballot. Chase Utley, I think, is massively underrated. I
Hmm.
know if you go look at the baseball card, I know some of the accruable numbers aren't there, but he was he was an MVP level player in my eyes for a decade, and was doing that at second base. Was doing that when the Phillies were super fun and winning World Series and having all that fun. Then kind of being old man Chase with the Dodgers. I love his career, and Billy Wagner. I think that you could accuse me of talking out of both sides of my face with voting for Billy Wagner and not K-Rod, Francisco Rodriguez, but I think Billy Wagner's his longevity, and I think his kind of he was the way that I remember Billy Wagner. I mean, he's that guy that threw the fastest fastball of all time when he came up. He was that guy that was absolutely throwing gas. He really never had a bad season. He racked up saves like crazy, and I don't know. There's the kind of not the first flamethrower, but the first guy to be throwing 101, 102
Yeah.
when he came up, and I think I don't know. I think important to the game. So that's my ballot. I think
Okay.
I'm well. I'll let you talk because I'm curious to see where we are not aligned.
Yeah, and I think like before starting, like I think you and I are both like I'm not a small hall guy. Like I think that the Hall of Fame is best used as like a tool for representing the generational shift of baseball, and
Yeah.
like it should represent the people who were the best during that time. And like I am I am full on board that Barry Bonds should have been is like an inner circle Hall of Famer. Now, he will forever have this gigantic asterisk next to his name, Roger Clemens, etc. But I think they should all be in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's stupid that they're not. I have a personal line though that separates guys like Barry Bonds from guys like Manny Ramirez, where to me, if you've been caught with things like uh, PEDs or caught in other cheating style uh, situations, that it's on the books as illegal to the game and you are caught doing it, you're forfeiting at least some degree of your legacy. And so, like these guys from the 90s and even early 2000s that were doing steroids and whatnot, I support them, but I'm kind of showing my hand here by saying like I am not a Manny Ramirez voter. I am
Sure.
not an A-Rod voter. I am very torn on Carlos Beltran because I love
Oh
Carlos
wow.
Beltran. He is on paper as a player. It's obvious he is slam dunk Hall of Famer. Like I don't think that is debatable. Personally, I am still torn as to how to handle the long-term ramifications of the Houston Astros cheating scandal.
Wow. I am surprised to hear this, Nady H.
I know, and I'm a little surprised to feel it, but I like they everybody got off scot-free basically, other than like a little bit of reprimand for a few people.
Beltran
And
lost his job.
yeah, that's fine. It's not a big deal. He's like a billionaire. He'll be fine. Like no one faced any real
You want
consequences.
him to go to jail? What are you saying
No, I
here?
don't. But I think maybe not getting into the Hall of Fame is okay. Also,
Yeah.
you
Sure. Okay.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, they're caught directly cheating at baseball. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a gray area here. Now, if you want to say like I'm okay with a little bit of cheating every once in a while, it shouldn't impact his legacy. Or if you want to say none of that happened while he was a player and I'm voting as
So
Carlos Beltran, the player, I get that.
the Patriots were caught filming Rams practices before they ended up beating them in the Super Bowl. That was an organizational cheating thing that happened. Would you not vote for Tom Brady to go into the Football Hall of Fame because of that organizational cheating?
They all deserve to die. That's my I don't know enough about that scandal, and like who was using what and
Yeah.
whatnot. So it's hard for me to say.
The
But
reason
like,
I'm saying that is because it wasn't just Beltran. He was
yeah,
definitely maybe championing it more
yeah,
than
all of
others.
them, all like if like I'm torn on Altuve, and Altuve seems to be one of the cleanest of them all. But he was still there. He knew what was going on.
Sure.
And so I will admit that like this is still something that I am thinking through. And this would maybe be a good opportunity for Beltran. Like this is an excuse for why they can be on the ballot for so long and things like that, and opinions can change. I don't know exactly what new information or anything is going to change for me over the next few years, because it's like it's been 5 or 6 years since this happened in the first place. But like, I'm just trying to be also intellectually consistent here, where I say like, you know, Manny Ramirez took steroids after they were illegal and he was caught, and so he's forfeit his legacy, right? He still made billions of dollars, not billions, but you know what I mean. Like this
Hundreds of
is
millions. Yeah.
there's no real penalty here other than like a legacy thing, right? So if
Right.
there's anything we can do to hold them accountable for cheating at the major league level and so blatantly, like this is one of the only things that we really have is like this mark on their legacy. And so I'm still uncertain about Beltran, because obviously, like, you know, I love him as a player, and both as the recipient of the Adam Wainwright curveball and as also the guy who came in after Pujols left and really helped keep the 2012 and 2013 seasons competitive. And him like shredding his rib cage, stopping that David Ortiz grand slam
Oh
in
yeah.
the 2013 World Series is like forever in my mind. And even though that like Ortiz still hit like 8 other grand slams, I think, in that World Series,
Yeah.
it's still like that felt big, and he was a huge part of that. So I love Beltran as a player, but I'm like, is this the one? This is the only thing that we can really do to say like you shouldn't have cheated, because everything else they all got away with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
get that. I think I'm more of the mindset of put A-Rod in, put Joe, or not Joe Mauer, he was clean. Put Manny Ramirez in, um, and then and Beltran, and have these conversations. I think
mhm,
that that's the punishment, is that Derek Jeter goes into the Hall of Fame sterling. No one's questioning anything.
yeah,
They ding him on his defense a little bit, but nobody's doing anything like that. Anytime you talk about Beltran or those other two guys, you also talk about that. And I think that's like the
yeah,
beauty of baseball, is that we don't forget the past. We bring up the
right.
history, and that's part of enjoying the sport. And I think that you can say Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Fame worthy player, but
He
remember when
fucked
he
up.
did this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I get that. Like that's also like, I think it was Bob Costas had the idea of like, if you imagine that the Hall of Fame is this like book that you're leafing through, like there's different chapters of the game, and like every chapter requires its own um explanation. It's like you need to watch Ken Burns baseball
Yeah.
before really looking at each period of the Hall of Fame, because that will tell you a lot. And like I recognize, in the 70s and 80s, like everybody was on speed, and that changed the game.
Yeah.
And like these cheating and drugs and all that have been a part of the game forever. I just like, if we want to get those things out of the game, there has to be real consequences to some degree. And as it stands, I don't think that there have been really many consequences. Like I think
I
you if you get caught now, you get suspended for 80 games. Okay.
yeah.
You get caught twice, you get suspended for a season. Okay. But like if you were good before that, you can make, like there's so much money now, it justifies it, so
I I just don't think that this would be a good deterrent, because like what, less than 1% of
sure.
players make it to the Hall of Fame. So it's like,
Yeah,
I'm going to take steroids now. And if they're talking about the Hall of Fame, like I'll worry about that in
I'll
20
worry
years.
about that later. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Like,
good problem to have, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's a realistic deterrent. And I don't know. Like, I put A Rod in the same camp as Barry Bonds. Like, he's one of the best to ever do it, and steroids absolutely helped. But he was 20 years old and one of the best players in the
Mhm.
league. Shortstop, power, speed, everything. Like, he was just great right away. Now I don't know. Like, I don't have the history of his steroid usage, on top of mind. But maybe he was
Well,
cheating from the very beginning.
yeah, I don't know, but he has definitely admitted and failed test past it being made illegal in the game. So,
Well, he's
like,
like an evangelist at this point. He's like,
yeah,
"Don't take steroids for this reasons,
totally.
my body, blah blah
Yeah.
blah." Like
Yeah,
he
and I
is
can respect
fully,
that.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know. I can respect that.
I would also
But
like to
like,
point out, I do not like A-Rod the person.
no, he sucks.
He sucks.
Yeah. But like to me, that feels like an easy line to draw. Like, don't do steroids. If you do, and you also happen to be in the Hall of Fame contention, like that, it's like betting on baseball. It's just a rule that has a lot of ramifications, and that's one of them. So,
Do you think, because we're basically talking about like tarnishing reputation, right? Do
mhm.
you think what has happened to Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, Roger Clemens, Sammy Sosa, the list is long, Manny Ramirez, do you think their names being drugged through the mud by the media and people like us and whatever over the past 15 years is offering as a deterrent for players? Or do you think that
I think
they don't
yes,
care?
but it's very on such an individual level, right?
Yeah.
Like there are players who come into the league with their head firmly like attached to the history of the game and the legacy of the game, and that matters to them. I think we see that a little bit with like Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
He clearly cares about like the game and his place in the game
Yeah.
and whatnot. And so I think it would matter to someone like him. But there are other players who, their primary drive is to get the bag. And I have like, hell yeah, like, especially where a lot of these people are coming from, like that should be your priority,
Yeah.
frankly. So zero, I'm not saying one mindset is better than another or more holy than another. But it wouldn't surprise me if that mindset is more inclined to take drugs and whatnot. They don't care about the legacy or history of the
Right.
game to that degree. And I'm not saying that this is a solution to the problem, but it just feels like an easy thing to do to say, like, we can't really stop you. You can do whatever you want, but there's some baked in
Yeah.
ramifications that like that do matter to some people. And also as they get older, it may matter more to them, which is generally how those things typically go. So
Totally.
I'm gonna run down my list here. It's not unlike yours. I actually only have one outside of all those guys, I have one that you didn't list. So I said Adrian Beltre, obvious, Todd Helton, full on support, Andrew Jones, hell yeah. I'm giving a little checkbox to Mr. Joe Mauer. Um,
Boo.
I He's like top 10 catcher in basically everything. And I know he played first base a lot near the end of his career, but that's not uncommon for a catcher. He's got the peak, face of a franchise,
Yeah.
best catcher for a period of time. Like, I don't know what more we want from a catcher than Joe Mauer. And the catcher position is also underrepresented in the Hall of Fame.
It is. The reason I push back on Joe Mauer is because I look at that. It's Yadi Molina, Buster Posey, Joe Mauer. And I
Yeah.
think that Yadi Molina and Buster Posey are the two best catchers of that time period. And I think Joe Mauer had some high points, but lacked catcher longevity.
Hmm.
And I don't think like his peak was so short.
Yeah.
Now it's not his fault, of course. I'm not like trying to throw mud on this guy, but it's just how it all played out with the concussions and everything else. And yeah, but I get it. I think he'll probably get in. Like if I were to place money
Hmm.
on this, I would bet that he probably gets in, but not my guy.
Joe Mauer, 53 Fangraphs WAR, which is on the lower end of like the general WAR total for a Hall of Famer, but for catcher, right there. Buster Posey, 50, like just under 58. So,
Yeah,
like an extra peak season for a catcher in there, which of course, and I don't disagree. Yachty, Posey, I to me, this is where I'm like, I'm not small hall. It's like
yeah,
I don't see why all three of them can't be. Um,
yeah.
so
I think that, like I said, I could be convinced he just
yeah.
wouldn't be my guy.
Um, I I did. I'm torn on this one, but Gary Sheffield stands out to me as someone that I think should be discussed a little bit more. And then I have Utley as well. I agree with all your points, and I have Billy Wagner as well. I agree with all your points.
Gary Sheffield. I like Gary Sheffield.
Yeah,
Um, he hit a lot of homers.
over
Um,
500. That's a big one.
over 500.
62.1 Fangraphs WAR.
I think people forget how good of an eye he
Yeah,
had. Um, but I don't. Maybe it's his journeyman. Like he played for every team. I mean, I will say, like, just kind of speaking emotionally, like watching him, especially growing up. I don't know if there's ever been a more intimidating presence
Yeah.
at the batter's box. Like, I mean, jacked out of his mind, super built. And the way that he wagged the bat, and then the monstrous power. But he was a really bad defender. He was a really
Hmm.
bad base runner. I mean, he wasn't just a DH, but maybe he should have been. Uh, again, a player. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the 500 home runs is cool, but not a guy that's not getting my vote.
Yeah. I was I've gone back and forth on Gary Sheffield. I think he's got the numbers, but there is something about the Hall of Fame. You do want that zazz, you know,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have much of the zazz that I think we're typically looking for.
And there's just like players from that same generation that did exactly what he did, but better.
Mm.
And a lot of those guys aren't in the Hall of Fame either,
Yeah.
because of steroids and stuff. And you can say the same thing about Gary, but I I get it. I'm for it. He wouldn't be on my ballot though. That's
Need
it.
more Garys in the Hall of Fame, I think,
That
too.
okay? Sold. Let's vote for him.
I also just want to throw some quick love to David Wright. I bet he gets in through some sort of like veterans committee, something or another. Like, you know, would have maybe been the best third baseman of all time, but his like spine stopped working, which is
Yeah,
horrible. So,
and we'll talk about the contemporary baseball era committee next week. But
mhm.
I think there's one thing to be small hall or a big hall. I think there's another thing to, like, not to pick on Harold Baines, but to get guys like
Yeah,
Harold
yeah,
Baines and David Wright. And they're not the same player by any means. David Wright was very, very good for a short amount of time, but I don't like that.
yeah.
You got to be healthy and productive, and it sucks that David Wright wasn't. Um, but that's kind of part of the game.
David Wright, 51.2 WAR in only 6,872 plate appearances,
Yeah.
whereas Gary Sheffield was he had like 11,000 plate appearances and only 10 more WAR than David Wright.
Yeah.
So um, David Wright healthy again. He's probably in the conversation for
Oh,
like
and I mean, my like, just thinking about him now, my like all these replays of him making these amazing plays at third base and
yeah.
clutch hits, and yeah, I mean, he was the man.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Like part of the Hall of Fame is making it the full career, and so, but there's another way to honor him
Yeah,
than like,
I'd love Wainwright to be a Hall of Famer. I'd love Chris Carpenter to be a Hall of
yeah,
Famer. But you got to be healthy.
yep. All right. Well, again, I'd love to hear your take if you're out there listening. You can call us at our number 848 birds or any of our social media platforms as well.
I guess we got to tweet
Um,
that out after the show.
yeah, yeah. All right, let's run through some league news that's come up over the last
Yeah.
week.
All right, not too much. The Cardinals kind of filled up the headlines over the past couple of
Uh-huh.
weeks, but there are some other moves that happened today. Right before we got on mic, the Reds have made their first significant signing of the offseason. Emilio Pagan has agreed to a 2-year deal. I think, Nate, if you want to look up the numbers, I think the numbers were just announced as we've been talking, but it was for more than I expected. I like Emilio Pagan. But I find this deal a little bit funny. His homer fly ball rate has been like in the high teens his entire career, and then he had a 5.3% homer fly ball rate, and his strikeouts went way down. And I'm kind of surprised the Reds, was it like 16 over
Yeah,
18?
2 years, 16 million.
I'm a little surprised the Reds decided to spend their money that way. I would not be surprised if this guy gives up a buttload of home
Yeah.
runs in that ballpark next year, but the Reds are getting
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I mean it does improve their bullpen. He's one of those guys that is supposed to be like the best reliever in baseball for years in a row now, and it just something always gets in the way.
Yeah.
But probably a good flyer, 8 million a year. They have
Electric
Alexis.
arm.
Yeah, they have Alexis Diaz at the back end of the bullpen. They've
Yeah.
already got, you can see where this would work well for them. But I also I see what you're saying, and also obviously as a Cardinal fan, hopeful that he just
Yeah.
gets shelled.
Yeah. Let's tee off on him.
Mm-hmm.
The Tigers have signed Kenta Maeda for 2 years, $24 million. How do you feel about that in juxtaposition to the Gibson and Lynn signings? Because it's essentially the same money.
Yeah. I mean, it is on a year over year. It is double as far as what's guaranteed. Not that that's a big deal, but there is a difference there. It, like I think I would have, if I could swap out one of Lynn or Gibson with this, I think I'd be happy because
Yeah.
that it does offer that upside play that you and I were talking about earlier. But clearly the Cardinals were looking for floor with
Yeah.
Gibson and Lynn, and I think Maeda's floor is likely lower. Although
Yeah.
Lynn, it's hard to argue. Lynn, I'd like to think that last year that was not his true floor.
Yeah.
And most of the projection systems also seem to be willing to kind of discount what happened last year
Think
for what
so.
to
Yeah.
expect from him this year. But yeah, I think like I would have been happy if it was like Gibson and Maeda at this deal, or Lynn and Maeda at this deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing with Maeda is how healthy is he going to be?
Yeah,
That's been a huge question basically since he came in the league. So,
yeah,
yeah, I agree with everything you said there. The Dodgers have decided to run it back and bring Jason Heyward back on the team. 1 year, $9 million deal. He's a platoon player now. He had a really good season against righties. And he's still one of the best outfield defenders in
yeah,
baseball. So I think it's probably a smart. This is a very Dodgers signing. They are so good at using all 26 guys on the roster, and this is just that.
yeah. He put up 2.2 F4 in 377 plate appearances,
So
so
it's
about a
like
half a year's.
it's like a 4 or 5 win player on your bench essentially.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool. Again, utilized very specifically in the
utilized where it only results in 2.2, but he has
right
the exactly.
when he's playing. Yeah.
It's a smart team making a smart play.
Yep.
Stupid Dodgers.
I know. Cardinals don't have a use for Jason Heyward, but yeah.
Now, it's also
Anyways,
incredible that Jason Heyward has now amassed like $300 million or whatever off of like two really good seasons
yeah,
and just being like fit as hell and having an award-winning smile.
yes, and a speech giver.
Yeah,
I looked it up though. His most productive season was that single season with the
with the
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
I'll
Yeah.
always get a little, even though he kind of roasted us as soon as he left, I'll always get a little joy about that. We
No,
got the most
I
out of
mean
Jay Hay.
that was a fun season.
It
100
was,
win year, 100 wins for the Cardinals, 99 for the Pirates, 98 for the
yeah.
Cubs, and he was the best player on that team. Yeah, it's easy to both hate and love Jason Heyward.
I mean, watching him play defense is fun.
Yeah.
It's less fun when he's in a Dodgers uniform and he's catching fly balls against you, but
Mm-hmm.
he is very fun to watch. Shoto, I cannot say this guy's name right. Shoto
Imanaga
Imanaga has officially
back
been posted,
loaded.
backloaded, has officially been posted by NPB. That happened Monday of this week. And, we talked about a lot of names earlier. This is not one that I think I would get especially excited about, but I think this is another name the Cardinals should consider.
Yeah.
I think he'll come at a low price. He's 30 years old. He's a lefty, low 90s, lots of control, decent breaking ball. Wouldn't be totally mad or disappointed. Maybe disappointed, but not mad if the Cardinals were to bring him in. But I'll be very curious to see how his
Yeah.
market shapes out. I mean, the Twins got to sign somebody. The Red Sox got to sign somebody. The Dodgers got to sign somebody. It's going to be a lot of competition for this guy, I think.
Earlier in the offseason, or as we approach the offseason, we've been in offseason mode for 4 or 5 months at this point. I can't quite remember when I talked about this, but he was an early target of mine for a lot of the reasons that you said. I feel a little less about it now, but I would be fine with the Cardinals getting Imanaga.
Yeah. Then maybe Yoshi comes along with him. He wants to play with Japanese players.
He did say that.
Liam Hendricks and Cody Bellinger win comeback player of the year. I think Liam Hendricks, like just the fact that he even played baseball this year was incredible. And how about?
I,
Sorry.
well, the Liam Hendricks thing is really interesting to me. Like not the typical storyline for a comeback player of the year. He played in
No.
5 games in 2023. But I think it's obviously speaking to the broader, like most of the time comeback player of the year, it's like, oh man, you were bad for a couple of years because you broke your leg or whatever.
Right.
And like like a Cody Bellinger is the prototypical winner of the comeback player of the year type guy. But Liam Hendricks, diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 5 months before the season and pitches in that season is just
Fights it off and comes back.
it's
So
truly
badass.
incredible.
It
It's truly
is.
incredible. Yeah. And so I was surprised to see it, but I mean, like, hell yeah, he's and I just love Liam Hendricks. He's a good dude. So
Yeah.
easy to root for. So
Certified lunatic, but
yeah,
great pitcher.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Bellinger, I mean, like it's pretty interesting, he went from like one of the best players in baseball. MVP looked like he might be the guy for
Yeah.
forever, and then just completely collapses and remakes himself with the Cubs. Looks like a return to form. There is some concern about his underlying metrics, his hard hit rate and whatnot. Like was it a really lucky
Yeah.
year? What are you buying if you buy Cody Bellinger for 2024 and beyond? But
Yeah.
no doubt about it, he had a great season.
And I push back on that. I've seen that reported a couple of times. But if you watch Bellinger play this year, when he was getting 2 strikes, he was actively trying to cut down his strikes. When he was getting 2 strikes, he did not go. He was not doing his A swing like so many players are
Mhm.
doing. He was doing a B swing or a C swing, and by that I mean just throwing the bat at the ball and
Yeah.
blooping a little single over the shortstop's head. So I'd be curious. There's I think I'm very curious to see where Bellinger lands up. I think outside of the 2 Japanese players, he is the most exciting free agent of this offseason.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
I think the Giants are going to get Bellinger or Otani. I think
Yeah,
they're kind of
they're
sleeping, but I think they're about to
yeah.
spend some serious cash.
Yeah, I think the Giants are maybe my pick for Yamamoto. They
Yeah.
love getting that good pitching staff too. But yeah, with Bellinger, your point about hard hit rate is interesting because everybody looks at hard hit rate. It's a really, really good underlying metric, but that assumes you're also trying to hit the ball as hard as you possibly can every time you hit the ball, which is how a lot of players play. And so
Right.
the higher the hard hit rate, the better generally. Your Aaron Judges, your Stantons, et cetera. But if you're a guy who's like what you're calling out Bellinger, where you're not actually trying to hit the ball as hard as you can every single time you hit the ball, then your hard hit rate is going to be like almost purposefully deflated. So,
Right. And
yeah,
do you think that teams have those types of internal metrics where they're like
yeah,
you're
I'm
watching
certain
the
they do. Two
video and
strike,
you're assigning
yeah,
yeah, or you're watching video, you're assigning this is an A swing, his average exit velo on an A swing is 104, his average exit velo on a B swing, or however I wonder if they have those
yeah.
kind of metrics or if that's something that they look into. I assume somebody does.
I would imagine that'd be pretty easy to filter off of just hard hit rate on each count, because
Yeah,
that would usually give you the
you
that
could
that number that
intimate.
that
Yeah,
would at least be a starting point that you're looking for.
right.
What's their hard hit rate on 2 strikes, so on.
The other thing
And he
that's
hit what
fascinating.
309 last year, so like
Yeah, I
he's
have the
clearly
numbers up.
going for average.
Yeah, he hit 307 with a
It's
356
close.
OBP and still a 525 slugging. It's not
Yeah,
like he was a slouch by any means. He
and 20 stolen
also
bases.
the speed in the defense. That's the other side is that
Yeah,
he is one of the best center fielders in the league. Can obviously play left and right, and he's a very good first baseman. He's kind of a weird player in that sense that he can
yeah.
be your center field, first base, DH, whatever you want him to do.
I was so mad when the Cubs signed him because like
It worked out
I don't know
really
if you
well.
remember last year, I was saying all off season, like the Cardinals need to sign Cody Bellinger because whoever does, they're going to be happy that they
Yeah,
do. And then, the Cubs got him, but
I
they
I
at
wouldn't
least
be
didn't get
surprised.
anything for him. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
He's probably the best bat outside of Ohtani, of course.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. If you subtract the Japanese guys,
Yeah.
Bellinger's the number one free agent. But that's a lot of subtracting. All right. Already mentioned the winter meetings are starting on Sunday. So next episode, I'm sure is going to be hot and too fast and too furious. We'll see what
Wow.
happens there.
Mi
Final
familia.
Coronas. Um, Final bit of news: a new baseball team for Oakland is launching. The Oakland Ballers will play in the Pioneer League, giving East Bay fans a team to root for after the A's leave. It's almost like people in Oakland want
Yep.
baseball.
I love it too
Uh,
because it's the Oakland Bees.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for league news.
I hope that they sell out every game and the Athletics, nobody buys tickets to. I hope that there are 0 people in attendance. And the Ballers sell out every single game.
I agree. I think we expressed this last week or the week previous. The future of the Oakland A's is extremely worrisome for me. And I say that because of just like general health of the game. I could give a shit about Fisher and his
Mm-hmm.
prospects and that. But having a dead franchise, which is where the A's feel like they're headed, is not good.
No,
I don't like this.
no, not great. What is like? They have some interesting young guys, so maybe there's still guys like it's that challenging thing where like everybody on the field is still going to be trying to win. All the coaches, all the managers, they're playing for their career. They're just not supported from the front office.
Right.
And there were some interesting players who popped up last year that like could help make them reasonable, but like who's watching and who cares right now? And that has to have a deflating impact on like a team's vibe and just willingness to try to win. So I
And
don't know.
like, how long is Shea Langoliers going to be in A? How
Yeah,
long is Ryan Noda, Zach Geloff,
Zach
Tyler
Geloff.
Soderstrom? How long
Yeah,
are these guys going to be A's?
yeah. Because the
It's
moment they get good, they're probably going to try to trade them, right?
it's
So
it's a, I th-
well, as long
and
as
if
they're not expensive. If they're good and cheap, they'll let them
sure.
stay. But the minute they hit like arbitration and their pay hits 7 figures, it's like, all right, get them out.
I'd love if any of our listeners have historical context for this. I'd love to be corrected, but like in the modern game, in the post dead ball era, has there ever been a franchise that is this dead of a fish flopping
Mm-hmm.
on the shore? Like,
Well, there's even talk like in 2025, they're not going to have a stadium. So they're just going to bounce around from like other minor league stadiums and things. So
what a
it's rough.
joke!
It's rough.
Absolutely stupid.
Yeah. Well,
All right,
speaking of stadiums, let's move on. Hambo and I got a game for you. After you and I have been talking a little bit about stadiums between this conversation. I know you're traveling to Seattle. We were talking about the stadium out there. And as we get further and further into the offseason, the more and more I start to miss baseball. And I just think about how nice it is to be at a stadium and enjoy a live game. And so I started thinking, like, what is the best stadium in baseball? And
okay.
fortunately, you can imagine there's plenty of lists out there. And we're going to see if you can guess what is the perceived best stadium in baseball, or the top 5 stadiums in baseball, in another edition of Who Charted.
Who charted?
This is
Great.
Who Charted Stadium Edition. So I have
Can't
this
wait to
article.
disagree with this jackass.
Yeah, yeah. Part of the fun of these games is that it's just your opinion against this other person's opinion. So,
All
okay.
right.
So this is from USA Today, and
Okay.
it's all 30 MLB stadiums ranked 2023 edition. This was written by Andrew Joseph. Okay. And this is their criteria. They say using the same, yes, subjective criteria of general atmosphere, design, location, amenities, food, and character, we've
Hmm.
arrived at an updated rankings of MLB ballparks to get ready
Okay.
for the 2023 baseball stadium season. Sorry. So
Okay.
this is going into 2023. They've ranked all 30. I want to see how many of the top 5 you can get, but of course I've got them all here. So
Yeah.
we'll see where they land.
Okay. So I'm going to go. I feel really good about the top 3, assuming this guy has a, brain. I'm going to say Fenway is number 1. I'm going to say Wrigley
You
is
just want
not.
to go all 5
Well,
like
I'm just going to do my first 3, and
okay.
we'll see. I'm gonna shoot my shot because I feel confident in this. Wrigley, number 2, and Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine, number 3.
Okay. So You are getting 2 correct and 1 wrong.
Wow.
Coming in at number 3 on this list, Wrigley Field.
Okay.
And number 5 on this list,
Oh my.
Dodger Stadium.
Fenway's not in the top 5?
Fenway is number 7.
This guy is an idiot. Absolute idiot. Wow. And the Dodgers number 5.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's see. Another stadium that is well regarded. Unfortunately, I have not been to this stadium. Let's go with the O's out in Baltimore. I'm forgetting the name of the park all of a sudden because my
Camden.
cat just turned a toy on upstairs, and I thought a ghost was living or creeping on us.
Normal thought.
The cat toy has this little tiny button, and it makes a thing shake around. I guess our cat learned how to turn it on.
Man, my brain is like so fucked up from also being into like true crime stuff as well. I was in my living room the other day and I started hearing like a flute playing, and this was like 11:30 at night or something like that. I'm like playing Spider-Man or whatever, and I started hearing a flute playing, and my first thought was like, "Oh fuck, it's someone who's like here to kill me," and their calling card is like they play a flute as they enter into your house to kill you.
What a way to go.
No, it was that like we had music playing in the kitchen, and I guess it just lined up where like the sound of the game was low enough and the sound of this flute was so high that it like it's the first time I hadn't heard the music at all, but it was like, oh god, I'm gonna be murdered by the flute killer.
He'd kick your ass too.
Yeah, I would get my ass kicked by the flute killer for sure. Kill me with a flute. Camden Yards is what you were looking for.
Yeah, really quick while we're talking about video games, and we're already going long on this episode, but
yes.
I thought you would appreciate this. A good friend of mine, a guy who works in the video game industry, just mailed me a director's cut copy of Ghost of Tsushima, which I'm very excited about.
Ooh, man, that's on my list. I haven't played it, but that is like I think number 1 on my list of like long games that have been out for a while that I need to play. That and the 2018 God of War are 2 games that I really want to play.
I'm about to beat BG3, and as soon as that's beat, I'm gonna load up Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm very excited about that. So nice. Anyways, Camden Yards is my vote.
Camden Yards is number 11.
Wow, that is disconcerting.
Yeah.
Okay. I know people.
By the rules of the game, you've got one more guess before we.
Yeah. People like Seattle. People like San Francisco. Coors Field, great ballpark. I've said that many times. St. Louis, great ballpark. I'm trying to figure out what this dumb idiot is, what their rubric is. Atlanta's new, which is, I think, inherently less sexy, just by the very nature. I will go Pittsburgh also. I got one vote. So I'm stuck between Seattle, Pittsburgh, and Giants. I will say the Giants. Give me AT&T.
All right, you got number 2, Oracle Park.
Okay. Oracle. Forget Oracle Park now.
Yeah. I always think of it as AT&T as well, but
okay.
Yes, Oracle Park is number 2.
Okay, so then I will go in between Pittsburgh and Seattle, which I'd whittled down to. I will say Pittsburgh. Give me Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you got it. Pittsburgh, number 4, PNC Park, Pittsburgh Pirates. So you've gotten 5, 4, 3, and 2. You're only missing the number 1.
How am I? So there's no way Seattle's number 1. That would be shocking to me. Nate takes a drink of water. He's giving me nothing over here. Philadelphia. It can't be Philadelphia. It cannot be Toronto. If it's the Yankees, I will never do this show again. Cleveland.
Please be Yankees. Please be Yankees.
NL Central kind of has some stinkers as far as parks are concerned. In my opinion, although I like the Royals Stadium, they should keep it. I mean, I guess I got to go with my logic. I'll go with Seattle. I really don't. That can't be number one though.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever. I'll say it.
Yeah. They have Seattle Mariners T-Mobile Park at number 9.
Okay.
All right. So you got the 5, 4, 3, 2, and finally number 1, Petco Park,
Are
San
you
Diego
kidding me?
Padres.
What? Because of the Western Supply building or whatever?
I don't know. I'll read the blurb. We really shouldn't be surprised at this point because Petco Park truly is the perfect ballpark. It's embedded right in the heart of downtown San Diego with the skyline basically on top of you. There's a community park that leads right into the outfield concourse, making it a cool place to check out even on
Oh, so
non-game
this guy
days.
doesn't like baseball. That's what I'm
Petco
hearing.
Park has the best food and beer selection in baseball to go along with the top-notch location. And now that the Padres are among the most exciting teams in MLB, the game day atmosphere measures up with the stadium itself.
Okay.
So,
The fact that
Petco,
Fenway is not in the top 5 is just
yeah,
completely makes this list a hunk of shit. But all right.
yeah. Bush is number 13, by the way.
Yeah.
You can at least feel some satisfaction that he has Yankee Stadium as number 25.
That's good.
Right before Angels 26, Chase Field 27. That's Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
28 is the White Sox Stadium.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
29, Tropicana for the Rays. And then
Oakland.
probably no surprises here. Number 30, Ring Central Coliseum, Oakland A's.
Where's Coors Field in that? I'm curious.
Coors Field is actually number 6.
Yeah.
Right out of the top 5.
I know I've said it before and that nobody can action on this right now, but come out to Denver and see a game.
Yeah.
It really is a great ballpark.
It is.
I enjoy it so much.
I've gone almost every year now for many years straight, and it's always a blast. It's a great
Meet me at the fast pitch game, bro.
I'm this year or next year.
Yeah.
I guess it's like September of next year.
Yeah. You got spring training's coming up here soon. I think
right.
80 days, 80 something days.
Yep. All right. Well, yep, this one went long, but hey, we had good news to talk about. So thank you everybody for listening. As always, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. 848-48-birds. That's our phone number.
What are the digits? If I don't know those. Do you know the digits off the top of your head? Do you have that available?
Yeah, hold on just a second. It is 848-482-4737.
All right. So yeah, if you're call us up. I cannot wait for this to go live.
Yeah. So we'll be back next week as always. Hey, next week we should be having C70 join us. It's been a little while, so that'll be fun to have him back. And until next week, let's go Yamamoto.
Yoshi.
Well, in that case, yeah, I'm probably pretty weak-chinned. I suspect I'm easy to knock out.
I don't. You got a big head though.
I do have a
that
big
might help
head,
you.
but
Like
a bigger
your
target
fist,
also.
My fist is much smaller than your head, so you think like just like from the mass to mass standpoint, it's probably some type of advantage.
Yeah,
There's
that's
only
a
one
good
way
point.
to find out though.
Our generation's cowboy actor, Timothy Oliphant.
And he was great
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and so dreamy.
And he fits into my game where you can. So you have to take your first name, or sorry, you fucked it up immediately. You have to take your last name, and you take an animal, and you can only switch the first letter of the animal's name, and that's your new last name. So, like Mark Ruffalo is Buffalo, but he switched the B to an R, so he's Mark Ruffalo.
Okay.
Timothy Oliphant, it's not spelled exactly the same, but it's basically elephant with an E in front of it, or with an O instead of an E.
What is the D&D character, the little golden elephants that can fly and talk?
I don't know. D&D golden elephant that flies. Hollyphants.
Holly, that's it always, yeah, I didn't have it on the
Yeah.
tip of my tongue, but it makes me
Yeah.
think of Hollyphants.
Those are adorable. So mine that I've come up with, and I'll give you a moment to think of your own, is my new name is Nate Laraffe. So it's giraffe, but an
Okay.
L.
Huh. Um,
It's tricky because your last name already has an animal name in it too.
oh, yeah, Samorca, the orca.
Yeah.
How about Ben Cirilla?
Instead of gorilla. That's good. Ben Cirilla.
Ben Cirilla.
Yeah.
Um, Chimpanzee. I don't know why I'm thinking of primates.
It makes sense. Easy leap.
Ben Sertle.
Ben Sertle. You like the S. Ben
Didn't you say
Birtle.
that's what you have to do?
Well, it
Oh,
doesn't have.
I was thinking S Samorca.
No, no,
Oh,
no. Like you can do
I see.
whatever.
I see.
The only rule is that you're taking a last name, or
Okay.
that you're taking an animal name, and you're changing the first letter to whatever
Okay.
you want.
All right. I'll think about this.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Okay. We should do the show.